In the second tutorial, we will write absolute value inequalities given the graphed solution. So let's turn over to example 5 and example 6. The directions say to write the inequality from each graphed solution set. So this is sort of going backwards. I have the answers graphed for you. I'd like for you to write the absolute value inequality for each of these. Okay, so the first thing I'm noticing is that one of these examples is an AND graph and one of them is an OR graph. And you should be able to identify which one is which. The AND graph right here in example 5 is all of the shaded stuff in between two values. I know that this is my AND graph. And if it's an AND graph, then I know that I'm using a less than symbol or a less than or equal to symbol. It has to be one of these two symbols. And if I look further, I see that, oh, I have open circles. If I have open circles, that means I'm not including anything, so I'm not using the equal to part. So I must be using this symbol right here. So I know that my answer is going to have the absolute value of something is less than something. So I know that just based on the open circles and that it's shaded in between. So how do we figure out these numbers? Well, what we do next is we'd like to know the number that's exactly in the middle. I'd like to know this number, exactly in the middle from one endpoint and the other endpoint. So we could just count out this tick mark. I'm starting here at -1, so this must be 0, and then 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5, and that works. If you have trouble counting that out, you could take the two endpoints, the -1 and the 5, add them together, and divide by 2. That's basically just taking the average of two numbers, which would find the number exactly in the middle. -1 plus 5 is 4, 4 divided by 2 is 2, so that's another way to find the 2. Once you know the number that's right in the middle, that's basically like your average, your actual value in the middle, that goes right here. So you're going to have x minus 2. It's always going to be x minus that number that's in the middle. So great, we have the inside. Now let's figure out what's on the outside. The outside value is always going to be that margin of error, that give or take. Basically the distance from your middle to either one of your endpoints. And clearly you can see that we're counting 3 tick marks. From 2 to 5 is exactly 3. Or from -1 to 2 is exactly 3. It doesn't matter which side we go. There's our margin of error, and that number will go right here. And that's it. Find the middle number, and it goes in the middle right here, x minus that number. Find the distance between your 2 points, and that number is your margin of error, and it goes out here. Understand how to figure out the symbol, and we're finished. We have the absolute value of x minus 2 is less than 3. Now, if for some reason you're unsure if you are correct or not, some people tend to mix up the two numbers, you can always solve what you think your answer is, solve it and see if your graphed solution set is exactly this. On our state test, when they're asking you to do these backwards problems, they're going to give you 4 answer choices. You could solve each one of the answer choices and see which one is the graph. And you could sort of go forwards on their backwards problem. Let's see if you understood all that and try it with the second example. So this is our OR statement. I know that this is OR. I sort of think of, you don't have to draw this, but if you think of yourself like in a boat, like in a rowboat, and you're rowing across the lake, the oars are on the outside of your boat, and that's how I like to think of the OR statement. I'm going to undo all that, but that was a fun visual if you like that. Sort of a play on words of the word OR that we use in a rowboat. This is an OR statement. And if it's an OR, we're using greater than or greater than or equal to. So I know it's got to be one of these two. Now, since I see these closed circles, I must be including the values. So I'm not using that one. This must be the symbol that I'm using. The absolute value of something is going to be greater than or equal to something else. Now let's go see if we can find those somethings, I guess. We're going to find the number that's right in the middle. That tick mark right there. -3, -2, -1, 0, 1. Yep, it works. Or you could take that -3 and the 1, add them together and divide by 2. That's another way to figure out that you've got negative 1 right in the middle. That's going to go right here, x minus negative 1. Now, obviously, we're not going to leave it like this. I'll clean this up in my next step, but it's always x minus whatever this number is. If it happens to be negative, we'll deal with that. And then the other part of this, I have to find how much distance there is between the middle and the endpoint. And you can clearly see that there are 2 tick marks, so it must be the value of 2, and that goes right here. That's your give or take, your margin of error. So x minus negative 1, of course, I'm going to change that to x plus 1, greater than or equal to 2. And there's our answer. So you should be able to go backwards. I want you to be able to go forwards and backwards. Forwards would be taking this inequality, solving it, and graphing the solution set. Backwards is I give you the solution set, and you figure out the numbers and the symbol to be able to write the inequality. Thanks for watching this tutorial, and we'll practice all of this in class. See ya.